Sheikh Hasina is all but assured of winning a fifth term as Bangladesh's Prime Minister on Sunday, with the opposition boycotting a poll they say will neither be free nor fair. Hasina once helped rescue Bangladesh from military rule, but her time in power has seen the mass arrest of her political opponents and human rights sanctions against her security forces. The 76-year-old Hasina, the daughter of a revolutionary who led Bangladesh to independence, has presided over breakneck economic growth in a country once written off by the US statesman Henry Kissinger as an irredeemable basket case. Critics accuse her government of unjustly jailing her chief leadership rival, passing draconian anti-press freedom laws, and a litany of rights abuses, including the murder of opposition activists. Hasina herself is a product of chaos and tragedy. She was 27 and traveling abroad when military officers murdered her father, Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, along with her mother and three brothers in a 1975 coup. She returned after living in exile for 6 years to take the reins of her father's Awami League party, beginning a decade-long struggle to restore democracy that saw her subjected to lengthy stretches of house arrest. Hasina joined forces with Khalida Zia's Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, to help oust military dictator Hussein Mohammad Ershad in 1990. But the pair soon fell out, and their rivalry has dominated Bangladeshi politics ever since. Hasina first served a term as Prime Minister in 1996, but lost to Zia 5 years later. The pair were then imprisoned on corruption charges in 2007 after a coup by a military-backed government. The charges were dropped and they were free to contest an election the following year. Hasina won in a landslide and remains in power to this day. The 78-year-old Zia, meanwhile, is in ailing health and confined to hospital after graft charges saw her sentenced to a 17-year prison term in 2018, with top leaders from her party also behind bars. Hasina has been praised by supporters for leading Bangladesh through a remarkable economic boom, largely on the back of the mostly female factory workforce powering its garment export industry. Bangladesh, one of the world's poorest countries, when it gained independence from Pakistan in 1971, has grown an average of more than 6% each year since 2009. Poverty has plummeted, and more than 95% of the country's 170 million people now have access to electricity, with per capita wealth overtaking India in 2021. Yes, overtaking India. Hasina also received international acclaim for opening Bangladesh's doors to hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees fleeing a 2017 military crackdown in neighboring Myanmar. And she has also been hailed for a decisive crackdown on Islamist militants in the Muslim-majority country after 5 homegrown extremists stormed a Dhaka cafe popular with Western expats and killed 22 people in 2016. But her government's intolerance towards dissent has given rise to resentment at home and expressions of concern from Washington and many other countries. 5 top Islamist leaders and a senior opposition figure were executed over the past decade after convictions for crime against humanity committed during the country's brutal 1971 liberation war. Instead of healing the wounds of that conflict, the trials triggered mass protests and deadly clashes. Her opponents branded them a farce, saying they were a politically motivated exercise designed to silence dissent. Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina still grieves the assassination of her father, the country's founder nearly 50 years ago, and her government ensures that the nation grieves with her. Once sidelined from official history, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is now the subject of a personality cult that designates him father of the nation. Hasina has foregrounded his legacy in what critics say is an effort to entrench her ruling Awami League. her government has also enacted stiff punishments for any comments, written work, or social media posts that could be construed as defaming his legacy. Dozens of roads and institutes of higher learning have been named after him, and Hasina's government changed the constitution to require that his portrait be hung in every school, government office, and diplomatic mission. At the center of this project of national commemoration is Hasina's childhood home in an upmarket neighborhood of the capital Dhaka. Now a museum, the residence is where her father, uncle, and 3 brothers were gunned down by disgruntled army officers at the break of dawn in August 1975. The walls are still pockmarked with bullet holes from that day. In rooms that otherwise faithfully preserve the books, smoking pipe, and other artifacts of Mujib's life, with hundreds visiting daily to pay their respects. The extremism of her actions have led to the United States impose sanctions on an elite branch of Bangladesh's security forces and 7 of its top officers over charges of widespread human rights abuses. Even before her opponents resolved to boycott the vote, analysts say the detention of so many senior BNP figures has left no viable democratic alternative to her rule. Many young voters say they have no intention of participating in a contest they see as lacking a genuine choice. The main opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party or the BNP, and other parties staged a series of rallies last year demanding Hasina step down in favor of a neutral caretaker government to oversee Sunday's vote. Around 25,000 opposition cadres, including the BNP's entire local leadership, were arrested in the ensuing crackdown. The party says the government puts the figure at 11,000 and tens of thousands more are in hiding. But her secular credentials are also being questioned now. There are numerous cases of land grabbing where Hindus are the victims. Most of these attacks don't even make it to the national media in Bangladesh. Such has been the othering and the persecution of minorities in Bangladesh that the share of Hindus in Bangladesh's population has dipped from 22% in 1951 to below 8% in 2022. This even as the population of Muslims rose to over 91% from 76% in 1951. Over 11 million Hindus fled Bangladesh due to religious persecution, according to the Hindu American Foundation. It says 230,000 Hindus continue to leave the country every year. The 2011 census shows that 1 million Hindus went missing from the country's population between 2000 and 2010, according to Deutsche Welle. Not only the out-migration from Bangladesh, the higher birth rate among Muslims and the lower replacement rate of Hindu population are also behind the slide in numbers. The state religion of Bangladesh is Islam, but the Awami League government reintroduced secularism to the preamble in 2011. Why are religious minorities facing such attacks and persecution when a secular Awami League government under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is in power in Bangladesh, and that too for the last 15 years? This is a burning question and becomes even more interesting as Bangladesh prepares to vote in the crucial general election on January 7th. Allah Sarb Shaktiman and Allah is Great was at the center of the Awami League manifesto in the 2018 general election. Bangladesh watchers elaborated on how Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League government have been courting the Islamists, from hobnobbing with the ultra-right Islamist group Hifazat-e-Islam Bangladesh to the opening of Saudi-funded mosques and the mushrooming of madrasas to an explosion of newly minted clerics. The Awami League has gone all out to reach out to the right-wing voters. Critics have also slammed her for trying to create a rift amongst the Muslims of Bangladesh for electoral dividends. All this and a lot more will make the Sunday election an interesting watch. Do tell us what you think about this video in the comment section, and for more news updates, subscribe to India Today.